morning and welcome to The Point. It is Thursday, Thursday, April 8th, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20, and of course special good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9, as well as the folks on Party Grenada and Go to FET Facebook pages. My virtual guest this morning is the President of the Commercial and Industrial Workers Union, CIWU, Mr. George Mason, and he's here to talk about national industrial matters. Good morning, Mr. Mason.
Good morning, Blossom. Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning
to all those who are present connected.
Top of the morning to you as well. Hope everything is well and fine with you, and you're ready to. Yes, you look so, man. You look. Into this morning's discussion, Mr. Mason, this 2021 has started and continues to be one of great industrial unrest, industrial unease in various sectors among various employees, affecting various unions. And before we look at some of the specific ones, like the impasse between government and public officers and teachers, and some of the financial institutions and hotels, let's look at CIWU specifically and some of the issues the union has been dealing with going through these COVIDious times, and what is currently taking place industrially.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and speak through you to the general public and to the international community. This is a period of great unease. It's a period of industrial turbulence, industrial relations turbulence, and a burning desire to see leadership in this period. We are presently embattled with some companies in negotiation, and last year we ended the year with the loss of some workers due to the COVID, and we also lost some workers previous to the COVID because of the closure of the Paris pharmacy in Grenville. Generally, it has been a very taxing situation regarding time spent in terms of resolving issues, and it has not become easier, especially with the pronouncement by the government that it will not be honoring its obligation to public officers. So that in that regard, many employers now are using that to say that they will not be offering any increases, even though they are in a better position than the government. So basically, that's where we are, and we are battling it. It's not unique. That's the nature of the beast, and we are doing our best. However, I can say that we have been successful in asking that, rather than company indicating that they don't have any money and they can't pay, we have been asking for continuous overlook of what's happening, continuous presentation of what is happening regarding the figures, the sales figures and so on, the projection, the actual, and so on, so that we're just not going to fold our arms and walk away from the bargaining table. But we are giving ourselves and giving the companies an opportunity to let us happening, and at the end of it all, we then will take a decision. But it's not easy at all in this period.
You are one of the union leaders that I've always seen on the front line in protests, whether it directly involves CIW or not. You're always showing solidarity and support. So I know you're privy to information concerning a number of industrial matters. So let's first look at the issue at the former RBTT, now ACB Bank, ACB Caribbean in Grand Anse, and what the issue is there. Some people have expressed to me that they are still uncertain what the workers' plight or concern is and why they are protesting. Just explain that for us as to why the workers have taken this form of industrial action.
Okay. Now, the issue with RBTT/ACB is as clear as daylight. The law clearly states the Employment Act number 14 of 1999, revised in 2016, section 45(1) and 45(2) clearly says what should be done when there is the transfer of employer. Now, it reads from the Employment Act number 14, Employment Act 14 of 1999, revised in 2016. Section 45, subsection 1 says, wherever a business or a part of it is sold, leased, transferred, or otherwise disposed of, the period of employment with the two successive employers shall be deemed to constitute a single period of continuous employment with the successor employee. What does that mean? It means that wherever a business, a part of a business is sold, a part of a business is leased, a part of a business is transferred, that's shares and otherwise, or otherwise disposed of, or otherwise totally shut down. The period of employment with the successor employer and the incoming employer shall be deemed to be a single period of continuous employment with the successor employer. That's regarding the employer. That's regarding the businesses, the successor business and the one that is sold, transferred, leased, or whatever, whether shares or otherwise. What about the employees? The law also addresses the employees. So section 45, the same section, and now addresses the employees. So 45(1) addresses the employers, and now it addresses section 2 addresses the employees. And what does it say? It says the employees of the former employer shall have the option to be terminated and receive termination allowance or continue with the successor employer. That's clear as crystal. It cannot be clearer than that. I want to read it over. Subsection 2 of section 45. It says the employees of the former employer shall have the option, shall have the choice to be terminated or to receive termination allowance or to continue with the successor employer. Now, in all the previous transaction and change of shares and so on, that has bedeviled the bank or fortunately helped the bank, no worker, according to my knowledge, have opted for separation, to be severed, to be terminated. All gladly, joyfully, happily went over. This one, however, the workers are exercising the option to be separated. So they don't want to be with ACB. So RBTT, therefore, has to treat with these workers. RBTT has to treat with these workers according to the law and adhere to the point of view. I've heard that not all of them are interested in going. Neither is all interested in remaining. But if there is one, my fellow Grenadians, if there is one worker who wants to opt out of that situation, that worker has to be given the opportunity to express that. And the union is a bargaining agent for that worker. So there may be 2,000 workers, but one worker decided, no, you see me, I had enough. I've been transferred like a dollar from one hand to the other hand, to the other hand, and I think that's the end of it. My situation as a dollar ends now, and I want to go home, rest, or I want to go to another employment situation. The union is bargaining for that. The labor minister, in his wisdom, looked at the law and decided that the worker and the union are correct. The bank held on to his position until recently. I've heard now that they have put some funds in an escrow account that the workers can then be considered, their opinions cannot be considered as to whether they want to go or not. But that was unnecessary. There are some workers last month who didn't know, and some are still wondering if their salary has gone to the bank because the company's accounts are in RBGT. And with the attitude of the former employer, the workers didn't have a choice but to withdraw the service. That's their right. And in doing so, the services that the bank provides was interrupted. Who felt it? The employers, the employer, and the workers. And the trickle-down effect was the ordinary man who worked for the whole month of March and was not sure whether he's going to get his salary, his or her salary. But you know what made it worse? Our government stood by and are still standing by and have not intervened. Because that is a matter of national concern. Now, had that happened anywhere else, I remember sometime last year, there was a matter with G4S security company in Barbados, and it was affecting the body politic in Barbados, and Prime Minister Mia Mottley called the two parties together, and she said, watch, sit down and present something before me in 5 days. She gave the parties 5 days, and the matter was resolved. So a matter lost. I've heard also suggestion that the Minister of Labour should use his authority and bring the parties to arbitration. The minister can't do that. The minister could only do that if it's an essential service. The bank is not an essential service. Well, I don't know, because now we are under state of emergency. So I don't know if the bank now is an essential service. But the minister cannot mandate anyone to go to arbitration except is an essential service. But the government have a right to use the art of persuasion and see how they can coax the employer to do what is right. Because here you have your citizens being affected. So I'm at a loss as to why some action wasn't taken that would have brought the matter to some form of closure. But our union is in full solidarity with the workers, because when one worker is hurt, when one worker is disenfranchised, as trade union, all are disenfranchised. And if you allow one snake to come in, the whole place will be infested with snakes later on, and it will be too late.
I've also seen you show your solidarity for the unions protesting the absence of the 4% salary increase payments to public officers and teachers, is the only solution payment of that salary increase pronto? Is that the only solution that there is? Because this has been going on for 2 months.
Plus, let me go back to that. And I'm going to speak from a philosophical, from a political and social point of view, and a pragmatic point of view. This 4% was negotiated following the structural adjustment program. Remember that? The structural adjustment program followed on the heels of the economic and financial collapse of the world economy. The collapse of the world financial and economic situation left us with the government of the government of the NDC in office. The NDC, to its own detriment, failed to do what Dr. Mitchell did, which is to take the bull by the scruff of the neck and initiate a program that will bring more money into the treasury. But the NDC was scratching and tinkering and what have you. NNP came in and decided, look, this is where we're going. So the workers, 4% that was negotiated came against that background. That background where the Prime Minister admitted in his last national address that 4 years the workers didn't get anything, which I know isn't factually true. But that being said, had a signed agreement which preceded everything else. It preceded COVID. It preceded the WRB issue. It preceded every other issue that has since come on the table. What did the leadership do? Today, to their good judgment, I will admit that they did pay over $100 million in salaries and so on to public officers. But what I would have done in a situation like this, in the negotiation with WRB that came after on the hills, and we have been told that hadn't government done what it did, WRB could have garnished our accounts, could have taken over or whatever, could have filed an injunction in the High Court, therefore, it means, and garnish our funds at the ports and whatever. I have a different point of view, because I've been hearing that we are still owing WRB $2 million. Now, the COVID has left us with a serious shortfall in finances. And what do you do in a time of crisis? What do you do in order to stimulate the economy? You put money into the economy. So the government could have met with the union and said, guys, watch, I owe you all. As the Prime Minister said in his last address, I owe you all. But I will give you all 2% now. Because I want to stimulate the economy. You want money to be placed in the hands of the working people. And while you're doing that, you negotiate also with WRB and inform them, look, this is the situation facing me. So instead of owing WRB $3 million, which may work out to close to $12 million or so, or 10 million, which is exactly the amount that you are indebted to the public officers. You could have asked that, look, let me pay you half. Because you are talking, the mere fact that you agree for 3 million to be paid later, you could have agreed for 20 million to be paid later. So I think the government objective was to just do whatever they wanted to do, whatever they think is best in their political prism, and no other suggestion was, in their opinion, appropriate or tenable. So what we have now is the clamor for the 4%. And rightly so, because, Blossom, do you know gas price has gone up by $2.70 for the year so far? That is a vehicle owner, a bus driver, a bus owner, where the bus fuel capacity is 10 gallons. He paid $37.50 a day. If he fills up, whenever he fills up his tank, he pays $37.50 more. Multiply that by 1 week, it comes up to $220. Somebody like you, Blossom, was a small SUV. Your SUV capacity might be 7 gallons. So you check it for yourself. You pay $25.90 more. Every time you fill up per gallon. That's the reality. So that is affecting your disposable income. But who has initiated that on us? No, you could import inflation, which you have no control over. But who controls the mechanism? The government. So the overall, to me, political and social consideration would have been give a little, hold back a little. Give WRB something, but you see to the acrimonious atmosphere with WRB. It might have been too toxic. But the mere fact that you got them to agree that you will pay $3 million later, US, shows that they are willing to accommodate a payment later. So I understand as a trade unionist, you look for middle ground. You look for middle ground. And the 4%, as I said, comes against a backdrop of a world recession, comes against a supposed IMF program, where the success of the IMF program, Blossom, is not the government, it's the public officers and with the people who went along with what was handed down to us. So we are the ones who did what we had to do to ensure that it was successful. So I submit that this thing was handled wrong. And to use WRB and say that they would have garnished the money. Yet they still agreed to have a payment later. We miss him as big time. We could have negotiated with them, honor some of the money owed to the public officers and teachers, and everybody ever after. And you also add more to the 30 million persons, 30 million people who are at the poorest. Because on each end of the spectrum, the poor relief, the working people, the creditors, everybody will be given a bribe. Everybody will be much happier. But public officers, which is the human resources, which are the ones who work the sole case, they work the sole case to ensure that the structural adjustment program was successful. They worked the sole case during the NDC, but nothing was done. to enhance the economic and financial status. And no, they are waiting for something. Instead of giving them, you're going to blast them. And then come in like humble, simple Simon and saying, well, look what have happened and look what have happened. I'm at a loss. I said, where we are going? So that's how I explain it. And that's where I stand.
So, you made a statement that we still, and it's we because it's taxpayers, we still owe WRB 3 million. That's factual, or that's what you're hearing? Because I haven't heard it.
This is what the minister said. We didn't pay all, we still owe 3 million. Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear that. That
the minister said.
I didn't hear that piece of news. So before we go to the break, Mr. Mason, considering, and you've alluded to it as well, that these COVIDious times, it has taken a big hit on revenue, finances, and not just for government, but for the ordinary citizens as well. And with all the industrial unease that is taking place, do you really feel like now is the right time to be fighting for these financial benefits? The 4% salary increase for public officers and teachers. Workers at former RBTT, now ACB Bank, wants the ability to take severance pay. We have issues, industrial action going on at Spice Isle Beach Resort, and so many other industrial issues. Do you think now is the time, in COVIDious times, do you think now is the time?
Well, Blossom, you could only go to war when you're attacked, you know. Remember, Grenada is the first country in the world where there's a structural adjustment program, where the threshold for taxes was lowered, for income tax was lowered, but you had more taxes added and nobody raised a finger. Because we are all in this together. The sacrifices were shared. And here you have, because of the COVID situation, this employer, to use your quote, the COVID situation, you have this company, and I must also control my comments here because RBTT was in Grenville. RBTT had a branch in Grenville, then they pulled out. Then they left a teller up there. Then they took away the teller. So people from Grenville had to come down to St. George's. People from St. Patrick's had to come down to St. George's. I rest my case here. And now, they are saying to the workers that no, you cannot exercise the option. So Bossam should have, and for them, COVID and no COVID. This is unconscionable. That situation is untenable. And right at the stroke of midnight on the 1st of April, the new company ensured that they marched into our land, marched onto our soil, marched into the office and took charge. They didn't say it's COVID. They didn't say, well, look, let's address what is outstanding here. And then the issue with the 4%. The 4%, I said, is vexatious because the government could have given something. We negotiate every day, and so sometimes go to the bargaining table, and you realize, look, you may have a 3-year agreement. And what do you think the 4% mean, Blossom? For some people, it means $32 because the salary is $800. That can't even buy a cylinder of gas. The salaries of Grenadians is very low. Almost 40,000 persons employed in Grenada. Out of that 40,000, about 25,000 salary is below $1,600. I repeat it. Over the 40,000 who put on the 25,000 of those salary, their salaries is under $1,500. And then you have inflation. You have the both imported and locally enforced. So we have to see things in context. I am sure if an olive branch, as I said, as we do when we are negotiating, we may have a 3 years agreement, a 3 year. So it begins 2019, continues 2020, and into 2021. And you look at, for example, this year, you say, okay, we'll give you a break. Okay. Pay last year. We'll give you a break this year, and we'll end up this year how things are for next year. That's your approach you take. The company responds, and they may say, well, look, for 2019, it may be too onerous, it may be too hard. So let's look at 2021. You negotiate. And I'm saying the government had a big opportunity when they were talking to WRB about the payment to temper that big payment with a pay later plan so that they could honor the obligation to public officers. And I'm making the point in the context of how the public officers worked. One, during the World Economic Crisis under the NDC, and how they worked under the NNP and through another crisis. This time, putting more into the country's coffers and ensuring that they collect more to put into the country's coffers. So the WRB payment could have been negotiated in a way that you honor part of the public officers' outstanding commitment, 4%. Pay 2. That's my substantive point I want to make as a negotiator. And he had no politics, it's bare negotiation, bare common sense. Shut up.
Let's take a break, Mr. Mason, and come back and continue the discussion, get into some questions on our social media platforms. This is To the Point with the President of the Commercial and Industrial Workers Union, George Mason. We'll be right back.
Grenadians in New York are coming together to pay tribute to our nation's COVID-19 victims and other people who died during the pandemic. The recognition would be in the form of a service of remembrance that would be streamed live via Zoom from Our Lady of Refuge RC Church in Brooklyn on April 18th. Streaming would begin at 4 p.m. and end at 5:30 p.m. under the theme Remembrance, Recognition, and Tribute. Grenadian culture will be showcased in performances from gospel artists, prominent Calypsonians, and the popular cultural group Quake USA. Now, we need your support in providing us with the names of your loved ones who were lost because of COVID. Please email the names to covidmemorialgnd@gmail.com. That's covidmemorialgnd@gmail.com. Let's all remember our dear Grenadians who COVID has taken from us. Zoom in to the live stream Sunday, April 18th at 4 p.m. from Our Lady of Refuge RC Church in Brooklyn. God bless.
Hey folks, you're invited to tune in to Grenada Music to the World program hosted by Eugene Gittens on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9, Hot FM 98.5, 98.7, GBN TV and all their social media platforms. the only totally local music program in Grenada, representing all genres of music. So it's Green's Music to the World on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN with the music icon himself, Mr. Eugene Gittins. See you then.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with President of the Commercial and Industrial Workers Union, Mr. George Mason. It is at this point in the program we're going to invite our viewers and listeners who may have questions for him. Now is your chance to ask them. The landline number is 435-2041. The WhatsApp number is also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. And you can continue to post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on the Facebook page and YouTube channel. Let's go to our first caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, miss. How are you?
I'm good. How you do?
I'm really taking it easy. I welcome Mr. Mason. I listen to him carefully. I can understand him very well. You understand? And you can continue. I'll continue listening.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
All right. Somebody on Facebook is asking, how can you expect government to intervene between unions and the bank when the same government is facing their own problems with the same unions on the 4% increase? It's like asking a cat to talk to the cheese.
Well, I would respond to that.
All right, let me go to WhatsApp. Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, the money is coming right back into the economy. It's not going into any financial institution to sit and grow. Times are hard. We need it now more than ever. I guess this person is agreeing with you when you said it's going to help spur economic activity in the country if the workers were able to get, at least half of what is owed.
Yeah, and this is what. And that's the same point the Prime Minister is making, He's making the point that he wants to go into construction. So it means that he wants to put that money into new hands, right? You want the construction persons who are unemployed, put some money in their hands. But that could be done. That could be done, especially, and I want to use the RRB issue, because the RRB is the tiger in the room. The RRB is a tiger in the room. The RRB negotiation could have been handled different. And I will go back to 2016. 2016, when the government first initiated, triggered the repurchase issue when they introduced in Parliament the bill, the Grenada Electricity Services Bill. It didn't become an act yet. Once you do that, you trigger the resale, the repurchase. The WRB say, okay, it is alleged, I stand corrected, that the WRB offered $8 per share. That in 2016, government offered, it is alleged, $5.50. And it ended there. Some economists said that have raised $81 million EC. 4 years later, in 2020, so what happened is that the government created an artificial confrontation because the government wanted to take back GrenLec. Dr. Mitchell is in the Hansard of the 1994, when he came in. He's in the Hansard as saying that the issue of GrenLec must be brought back to the table. Because I think GrenLec should remain with us. And I agree with him. As a matter of fact, when GrenLec was offered for sale, the trade union movement took to the streets. We had meeting in front of us. We went to Grenville in the car park. We went to in front of the government pool. Dr. Mitchell was with us, informing us that if we vote him, he will take back GrenLec. And I remember speaking to him in July 2011 when he was then opposition leader. He had a meeting with us as trade union leaders. And I asked him, what happened to the GrenLec issue? He spent 13 years there. And Dr. Pachikontain, who was with him, who was part of his team, said that the government could not have intervened in Grenelec because the World Bank gave assistance for the divestment. So it would have been looking as if the government of Grenada is hostile to foreign investment. So they did create that artificial confrontation, knowing that they will lose eventually. But who will pay? We will pay. So now they're going around telling people, it's the court, it's the court. That's a cheapest conclusion. Because that was the intention all along. But now they get an excuse. So I'm saying that the Grenelec, the WRB issue could have been handled differently. And even on the bargaining table, the government could have said that, look, I can't pay you all now, but recognizing the commitment to the public officers, as I said, who work the sole case, who work the sole cases, who operated under tight austerity measures. 20% of each ministry's budget was cut. You had office attendants working from the Ministry of Labor, working from different ministries, whereas before they had transportation. And that is sacrifice these workers made. So the issue of COVIDious times and the issue of the principle of adhering to what you sign on to is, are the matters before us now. So the WRB payment negotiation could have been done in such a way that you honor WRB, you honor the public office with part. I ain't saying the full 4%, but at least part payment, and you honor all those who want to get employed. Because those money that are being used now for construction, the Prime Minister, who was then the Minister of Finance, said that those monies came from grants. Those money came from grants from the CDB and the World Bank and so on. So those money wasn't raised from taxes. So here you had an opportunity to negotiate, to honor your commitment in part. And I'm saying the tiger in the room is over.
Let's go back to the phone line. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Morning to your guest. I just want to ask Mr. Mason, how many persons in his union been vaccinated so far, and what your advice to them in getting vaccinated? Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller.
Full support. The caller, I'm in full support of the program. I think that notwithstanding that 30 million persons were vaccinated in Europe, and 129 had side effects, and 19 died because of blood clotting. The overwhelming evidence is that for every one that had a side effect, 250,000 didn't have any effect. So the benefits way outstrips the downside. Fully, it's up.
All right, let me go back by Facebook. Somebody on Facebook is, they're saying in relation to renegotiating with the WRB. Somebody on Facebook says, government does not have a good relationship with WRB, so I doubt it is possible. What would you say to that?
Well, that's a fact. I think when you're looking at national interest, that's where the tide hits the road. When you're working in national interest, sometimes you have to put aside your personal ego and deal with issues that will affect the overall population. So you give consideration to what is best for all the people and not what is best for me. Yes, they had an acrimonious relationship. It was bad-tempered and so on, as we know. But the fact that you get them to agree to a later payment of $3 million You could have also, as the government, negotiated for half of the payment they've been made. And as I said, honor your commitments, because the government's aim is to ensure that more people are employed. But I remember during the structural adjustment program, the hue and cry was, the mantra was, we have to grow the economy. We have to grow the economy. And I can still see, I can visualize Minister Joseph pontificating. We have to grow the economy. When you grow the economy by putting money in people's hands, and the people you are most obligated to are the public officers. So you put money into their hand now, stimulate the economy, $1 million every month goes into the economy. And you also look at how you could pay. Later, our fiscal management have been exemplary. And we were able to trigger the escape clause in the Financial Regulation Act, which gives the government the opportunity to pay more than it would have done had it been monitored. But the monitoring mechanism is released and is not there as it ought to be. So it is not put aside. And you can now use your leverage, because the debt to GDP is now 69%. Okay? It is down from 108, which is very, very good for the government. I always say this government has done exemplary well. And this government has all, I put on record, given public officers salary increases and so on, commensurate with the period. But when they mishandle the situation, they mishandle it, and this one was mishandled badly. Again, I peg that to the Dobravi issue. So, because in the same space, in the same context, in the same period, you are talking about delaying payments. You're able to find that money to give to Dobravi. That is my case, and I will hold on to that till I die.
All right, let me see. Somebody on Facebook is asking, we're seeing the unions trying all different tactics, example, silence in the classrooms, wearing colored T-shirts, demonstrating in streets, and yet government sticks to their plan of paying the 4% in December. The question is, if you were advising the unions, what action would you lead them into next, and would you rule out civil disobedience as one of the options?
Well, let me say the last one first. See, but nothing we have achieved in this world, I talk about in this world, nothing we have achieved have come to anybody loving you and offering you anything and update. The freedom we enjoy now was won through blood, sweat, and tears. You could call it the question. They can call it civil disobedience, but it came against a background that necessitated such action. I'm talking about in this world. I'm not talking from a religious point of view. I'm talking about this world. So the teachers, the public officers have to use all the means, have to use all that is necessary in order. And listen, it's only in the last national address the Prime Minister definitively said that they will get the money in December, you know. Only while he was saying, if possible, play back the tape, Bassam, the enjoiner to the December was always, if possible. And this is vexatious enough. So they continued to show their disapproval. And last speech, he said, definitively, it will be paid in December. So had they just fold their arms and remain calm, come December, they'll tell them, well, okay, they may, I'm not saying they would have, but they may have said, well, look, we have nothing, they are not possible. So we'll go with that. So that is why they have to be always pronto in asking the questions, asking the relevant question, so they will get the relevant answer. I'm saying that at least 2% could have been paid.
Good morning, caller.
Morning, Blossom, and morning, Mr. Mason. I think part of the problem is that, as Bishop Harvey has said, when he was in Brenda Batti's first program, that a lot of people don't understand the person who was holding the office of Prime Minister. Because if they understood, a lot of the trouble we're in right now, we would not have gotten, because many times they drink the broth that he fed them. Anyway, notwithstanding the point, Mr. Mason, I was part of that process that had opposed the sale of Renwick. Although we were on a different level, not a political, I was saying we're from a nationalistic thing and also an environmental. Nonetheless, what we did when we realized that we could not stop that, we campaigned from both a local and international level for environmental safeguards. That is the reason why Indian Grenlick had the environmental program that there is. So the thing about it is that it's true that because we wanted to remain in Grenadian hands. But this guy had another idea about this thing. Even Dr. Thomas, when in 2016, when he was said to them at that session in the Trade Center, why you don't use the leverage that the previous government had with the company to help to ionize the process? They already could have left even by the time he was supporting them. Anyway, part of the problem is we have been tricked, fooled all the time. What is happening is that it's like the story of Anansi and the 4 plantains. Anansi ended up eating 1.5 of the plantain, while his children and wife eat half of the plantain. This is what's happening. We are having less and less as going and going, but it's very sad. And people are being tricked. The thing about the WRB, in addition to what you said, Mr. Mason, about the involvement of the WR, and you should go back to listen to the speech of Nicholas Bassett when he said that the guy knew that they were following instructions from the IMF, the World Bank, and the U.S. government in terms of pursuing the sale. And also the reason why he couldn't touch them at the time is when he came in, because the OPCI, the Overseas Investment Corporation, who was the guarantee of that process, is an American, like an export credit bank. And they couldn't touch that.
Okay.
Anyway, I say no more.
Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Mason?
Thank you very much, caller. And you could not say it better.
A Facebook question. Somebody on Facebook is inquiring if at any time during the negotiations with government, did government say what sacrifices they are prepared to make in national interest?
Yes, and it goes back to the NDC. To their credit, the NDC took a pay cut. The minister took a pay cut of 5%. What have these present administrators done? And even as they continue to pile on the taxes, pile on the additional costs on gas, they don't buy gas. So it's like cheese and egg. Cheese and, something else, I wouldn't say.
Let me go to
Chalk and cheese.
Chalk and cheese.
I will tell a more palatable one. Chalk and cheese.
Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, or let me rephrase the statement. The person is saying it's sad that government has no moral authority to bind ACB to the ruling by the Labor Commissioner or the Minister of Labor. So let me rephrase then. Can government, for lack of a better word, force ACB Caribbean to adhere to what the minister decided? And any idea why you think it hasn't been done as yet?
Yeah, I'm talking about moral suasion. You look at the big picture. You go to, you call the director, the managing director for the region and for the OECS or whatever, and you have a chit-chat, and you say, well, look, this is hurting my economy. I don't have my fingers on how much workers got paid late, which will affect the mortgage because there will be additional bank charges to the mortgage. I don't know how many. I don't know how many had additional tax, additional have to make additional payment to flow for late payment. But these are things that you bring to the table and you talk in a frank and open way with the managing director or the team as the government, because the young people who are watching. So this is what I'm saying. You cannot dictate to them what, but this is your space. This is my country. This is my people who are watching. And you come from that with understanding from them, look, I can't, I won't, or let's wait and see. But to just sit down, as the President General of Tao said last night in the news, that could not have happened in Antigua. I remember when Scotiabank was sold, the Prime Minister said that's not going to happen in Antigua unless there are certain ground rules that were clearly established. He put his foot down. I'm not saying that the Antigua Prime Minister is much more interested in his people than ours, but the facts are there. And then to have these guys marching in the height of industrial dispute, I mean, it's tantamount to total disregard for the moral fiber in which we are made.
As we close the program, Mr. Mason, 30 seconds, your final thoughts?
Well, I look forward to speedy resolution to the issue regarding ACB, RBTT ACB. I look forward to some sort of middle ground between the government and the public officers. And I again want to implore the citizens that we should try our best to get vaccinated. We should ensure that we protect ourselves and we prevent others from becoming infected. And I look forward to the peaceful and harmonious relationship that exists in the country. We are very peaceful. We may make our noise and so on, but we're doing it in a dignified and peaceful way. But I look forward to having a cessation of all hostility with everybody understanding what is needed to be done and ensure that it is done, and that the government ensure that the workers in ACB, arbitrary such ACB are given a hearing, and that who wants to go are allowed to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mason, for being our guest this morning. Appreciate it, sir. Continue the fight and enjoy the rest of your thankful Thursday, sir.
You're welcome. Have a lovely day.
You too. President of the Commercial and Industrial Workers Union, Mr. George Mason. We thank him so much for sharing his thoughts on the current industrial unease in the island and other matters. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Joseph is up next with Mid-Morning Buzz. Enjoy the rest of your thankful Thursday, and I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing.